So take a look at these. At first glance, they just look like fun, kind of cartoonish certificates, right? But don't let the hand-drawn art and the inside jokes fool you. Behind them is a story of absolutely unimaginable power and incredible danger, all happening at the peak of the Cold War. Let's zoom in on this one for the Misty Rain test. It looks like a cool little memento, but this souvenir belonged to a man named Jerry, and he earned it at the Nevada test site, a place where the US government was literally setting off nuclear bombs underground. This was no company picnic. This was deadly serious work. To really get why anyone would be doing this, you got to rewind to the 1980s. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, they were about as high as they could possibly get. And right at the center of it all was one terrifying question. Do our nuclear weapons actually work the way we think they do? Turns out, the answer was buried deep under the Nevada desert. Now, the Nevada Test Site, or NTS, wasn't just some random patch of land. This place was one of the most secret, most secure military spots in the entire world. Its whole purpose was to conduct these underground tests, to see what nuclear weapons could do, and, most importantly, to make sure they were reliable. The people working there, guys like Jerry, they weren't just your standard issue soldiers. No way. These were specialists who were vetted up and down with top-level security clearances. What they did was absolutely critical for national security. They were fighting on the front lines of the Cold War, only their battlefield was hidden hundreds of feet underground. So, just how dangerous was it really? Let's get specific and talk about one event that shows you exactly what was at stake. It was a test called Midas Myth back in February of 1984. And here it is, the souvenir for that test. Again, you see the casual drawings, the little inside jokes. There's a helicopter, some trailers on a mesa. Looks harmless, right? Well, this certificate is a memento of a day that went very, very wrong. So here's the setup for Midas Myth. Imagine they drill a really long tunnel, horizontally, straight into a mountain called Rainier Mesa. At the very end of that tunnel, they place a nuclear device. The whole idea was to see how military hardware would hold up against the blast. That nuclear device was detonated about 360 meters. That's almost 1,200 feet, straight down from the top of that mesa. Just try to wrap your head around that kind of power being unleashed deep inside the earth. Okay, but here's where things get really crazy. After the detonation, people, including Jerry, had to go back to the area to get data from a trailer park full of recording equipment. And that trailer park was sitting on top of the mesa, just 26 meters. That's only 85 feet from surface ground zero, the exact point on the ground right above the blast. 85 feet? Official reports even say that was the closest they had ever put a trailer park to a test. And get this is a direct quote from the official accident report. They figured the trailers could handle the initial shockwave, but the report states chillingly that there was no consideration given to the ground actually collapsing afterwards, while people were supposed to be working there. And that is exactly what happened. Hours later, the ground just gave way. A huge crater opened up and completely swallowed the trailer park. It was an absolute disaster that could have easily killed people, and it was all because of a mind-boggling oversight. The really terrifying thing, though, is that Midas Myth wasn't some one-off fluke. This kind of danger was constant. Things went wrong all the time, and it created this clear pattern of unbelievable risk. I mean, just look at Jerry's schedule over a little more than 2 years. You've got Midas Myth, then Bang, Misty Rain, then Diamond Beach, then Mighty Oak. It was a relentless pace, and every single one of these tests was like rolling the dice with your life. For instance, during Misty Rain, the moment the device went off, key radiation monitors just failed. They went dark. So for a while there, everyone was flying blind. Then you've got Mighty Oak, which was a real disaster. Official documents talk about a perceived lack of containment of radiation, which is a very calm way of saying they thought radioactive material might be leaking out. And how bad was Mighty Oak? They lost $32 million worth of equipment, stuff that was supposed to be recovered and used again. In today's money, that's over $90 million. This wasn't a clean scientific experiment. It was a battle against forces that could and did break loose. So you have to ask the question, why? Why put people's lives and millions of dollars of hardware on the line like this over and over again? The answer is one powerful, complicated idea: nuclear deterrence. It was the absolute bedrock of global strategy for the entire Cold War. And deterrence is actually pretty simple. It rests on three main pillars. First, capability. You let the other side know you've got the weapons. Second, reliability. You have to be certain those weapons will work exactly as planned. And third, proof. You need the hard data to prove it. And that's exactly what Jerry and his coworkers were doing down in those tunnels. They were getting the proof. All that dangerous, hands-on, high-stakes work was the only way to get the data that made the whole strategy of deterrence credible in the first place. This last certificate for the Diamond Beach test, it really gives you a glimpse into their world. I mean, look at the diagram. You can see the complex tunnels, all the monitoring gear, the incredible scale of this operation that was totally hidden from view. These weren't just souvenirs for showing up. They were basically badges of survival. You know, it all leaves you with one final pretty heavy question. Behind all the big strategies and the geopolitics, there are real people, people like Jerry, who were asked to stand just 85 feet from the center of a nuclear blast. So what is the real human cost of keeping a fragile peace?